Okay, in the next part of the video here, we're going to be going over the construction of the turret. In the first one I built, I didn't really do much planning on the turret. I just kind of slapped scraps together until I got something I kind of liked. This one I have very carefully planned out. I figured I was going to use 3 pieces of foam on each side, and then I need a 1/2 inch clearance for the barrel. So I made this 1 3/4 on a side. I cut out a bunch of shapes I'm going to use for it, roughly based on the actual kit's turret. And then I kind of cut notches out to fit everything that I have here. So I'm just going to put it together now. And of course I wanted to set up so that when it's sitting in a certain direction you can still see the glyph in the back. So I'm going to start with these long pieces here. Go right up onto the edge. These pieces here, I've already cut out a notch, so they're going to slip over the sides. And of course the big pieces here are going to go on the inside here. And I'm going to putting this together. I should have it pretty close to exactly a 1/2 inch space in the middle for the barrel itself. Yeah, that's really good fit there. Really good planning. I'm also going to have to put this piece in here. The idea here is that it'll allow me to put the barrel in at an angle and have somewhere to glue it to that's not foam. So I'm going to just kind of slide this in here at an appropriate angle. That will give me a nice space to glue the barrel to. Once it's all dry, I'm going to fill in here with cardboard scraps and other stuff, if I can find the scraps I cut. There they are. Corrugated cardboard. So it broke down and put a new blade in the knife.
You're not getting away from me.
And kind of measuring this for wussies. This is the orc stuff you don't need to measure.
Finally clear a quest, and it's the food one.
Perfect. there's a lot of planning and forethought put into this turret. As I was off camera here last couple days. I'm holding this so it sets up. I also cut, probably won't be able to see him, but I cut an entire rod full of bolt heads. I took the rod and the X-Acto knife and just snap, 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 just cut off a little tiny bit each time. Most of this is already done. I did the top and I did 5 of the sides, and we'll just go over this last side here eventually. So yeah. We'll sit in here, something like that. There's a scrap here. That's pretty much the basic shape of the turret there. Looks pretty significantly different from the other turret that I'm very happy with it. So now I'm going to work on the barrel itself. Okay, so I had to turn off my fan because I was getting some wind noises in the mic. Sorry about that. So you won't get that anymore. So this is the barrel. It's a 2-inch piece of 1/2 inch plastic tubing. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of cut up the edges so it's not quite so smooth. I want it good and properly Orky. Don't do this at home, kids, with a very sharp X-Acto knife. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some 030 plastic and just cut me 6 good sized diags. Now we're just going to go ahead and super glue them around the end of the barrel. And then after the glue secures here, we're going to go ahead and do the same with the edges of these diags, rough them up a little bit so they're look worn. Let's say I only cut 5. Okay, I'm going to finish off the end of the barrel. What I'm going to do is take a piece of 040 strip and put it along one side of the barrel, which is going to end up being the bottom. Again, this is largely based off of the original GW kit. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a couple pieces of this 020 strip. I'm going to use it to loop around the barrel a couple times. It's a rough cut here. This isn't exactly the easiest thing in the world to do, let me tell you. So what I'm going to do is just give a spot here to start with, and then set it in place. Going to clamp that down. I could do this with plastic glue, but to be honest, plastic glue just takes way too long to set up to even begin to be able to have a practical amount of time in putting the strip on.
it up for a few seconds here while we trim down the end here. I don't have it exactly perfectly around it. Well, they're orcs, they don't need to be perfectly around it. Okay, and do it again on the ways down the barrel. Get a rough cut here. Then trim down later. Setting it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a small piece of this 1/8 inch rod here, which will go on the top. Kind of like the rebound piston or whatever. I don't know what they really are, but since again it's in the original kit, so I'm going to try and duplicate it a little bit. My mistake. Should have trimmed it first before trying to glue it. Yeah.
I'm standing on this some bones.
Not too bad. Nice and on the opposite side of strip on the bottom, and add this little piece of plastic here. There we go. That's what it'll look like mounted inside the turret. Now it's just time for some details. Let's see, what can we do here? I guess we're going to add some diags to the side here. Looking good. I'm going to let this set up completely before I actually glue the barrel in place. There's lots of space for me to glue that in, unlike on the last one. So that looks good. I can clean this junk out of the way here. Just go over real quick. Let the turret dry. Put some rivets on this last section here. Well, rivets for some people, bolt heads for me, and of course we do have to use super glue. They're plastic. We'll put on just little drops of super glue on the corners. each little piece. Only do a few at a time because the glue will dry before you get to it if you do too many. This is probably the worst part of building the Ork stuff, is the expectation of all the bolt heads and rivets. I'm one of those people who don't believe there is a right way or the wrong way to do anything in this game, because they are, after all, your models, but you know, you're not the only one looking at them, so if you're looking for feedback, you know, people are going to have certain expectations of Ultramarines being blue, of Eldar being colorful, and of Orky stuff having lots and lots of rivets. It's just kind of the downside, in my opinion. Because ultimately, you know, the stuff is for you, but if you're going to go take it to like a judging any sort of tournament where there's a painting competition or painting component, you know, there's going to be other people judging, so you kind of have to do things for other people sometimes instead of for yourself. My biggest example of that is drill barrels. I hate drilling barrels. I think it is the stupidest thing anyone has ever come up with. I see absolutely no point in it whatsoever, and I only do it to please paint judges. Yeah, it's probably the same reason why I put this many rivets on here for bolt heads, because it's to make it look good. It's quite tedious at times, especially when you have to cut out 100 of them. Whether you do it with a hole punch, an X-Acto knife, or the chopper, whatever that awesome device is that a couple of my friends have. That's basically like a guillotine paper cutter for plastic. Way too many. I'll use them. Oh, I still gotta do the turret too, actually. Come to think about it. And that's really probably the least exciting part of this. Actually, I'm wrong. The least exciting part is it. So anyway, there's all the rivets for the base. I gotta let the turret dry completely before I do the rivets on that. So it's just gonna be set aside for until tomorrow, and I'll finish it up then. But this is what it's gonna look like, basically. Got my other one. So there's a pair of engines, book, and batteries. I do have magnets. I don't want to put the magnets on here. I let them know the actual size of the turret. I'll make sure they go the same way. Glue in the middle. Didn't matter so much, but this one kind of does. And do it this way. And the glue sets up, I'll pull that off. So I'm going to pause the video again. I'm going to go on to the very last step after the rivets and okay, the very last step is probably the most annoying, is trying to deal with these exposed foam edges. Not only do they look horrible, but if you try and spray paint it, of course, the foam will disintegrate and destroy the look. So what I prefer to do is I actually cover them up with spackle. Now there's a very specific reason for that. So I'm just going to use my sculpting tool, good old GW sculpting tool, and some water, just like if I was working with green stuff. Now this is quick drying spackle, so I have to work fairly quickly. You can also use it to fill up. I said this is the part where we're going to fill up the ends here, or the tops, where the foam got kind of cut up a little bit, because we cut a V in it. And then what I like to do is I'm going to get a nice coat of spackle on here. It's completely covered and relatively smooth. So I take the end here and I just kind of go like this. You can see what you're doing. And just put lines in the spackle. And the idea, if you've ever used an acetylene torch, is to make it look like the edge was actually hit, there it goes, with an acetylene torch. So, and all you do is just kind of put the lines in here. Like that. There we go. Let's see if we can kind of, there we go. See, and that gives a nice practical, edge to the metal. Or it would be a big chunk of metal where it's just been torched by a mech with his burner, probably. So that's how I like to finish off the foam edge. It's not the only way to do it. You can just cover them with paper, just soak them with glue a couple layers, or just black bomb it with a brush instead of a spray paint. But I really like this torched metal edge look on all the edges. So I'm pretty much going to end the tutorial here because I don't think you need to watch me sit here and do this 5 more times. So what I have left to do now is I have to wait for the glue on the turret to dry completely, and then I have to go around and do the rivets and the edging on here, glue the barrel in, and that'll be it. That'll be the end of the construction. So I'm going to stop the tutorial here, and I'll see you next time.